few things in our arsenal that we can use as talking points when we leave this room. Number one, we always talk about victims of genocide. Yes, they were victims of genocide. But think a little differently, and that's what the power of narrative is. They were also heroes of the resistance. Do you think that Girija Tikku, she knew the perpetrators? By all records we know she knew the perpetrators. Do you think she could not have told them, here, I convert right now, I will marry one of you, or I'll do something, I will convert to Islam, I'll say the kalma, leave me alone? Do you think Girija Tikku, a simple lab assistant, couldn't say that? She did. She is our hero. She is a victim, but she's our hero. Do you think B.K. Ganju, who was shot at his neighbor's return, now we know that he was working in a department where the messages of terrorists were coming and he was told to comply with the terrorists and he didn't. Do you think he couldn't comply? Do you think he could not join hands with terrorists and save his life? He probably could. He didn't. He's our hero. There are many such heroes. So never ever, to my young friends here, we are victims, but we have heroes. We have heroes of our resistance. We did not just lie down and die. Yes, there were some instances where they came as from the behind and they just betrayed us. We couldn't do anything about it. But people, when they had the chance, they preferred death. And when they preferred death, that is courage. The fact that we all call ourselves Kashmiri Pandits is because our ancestors didn't convert. The fact that we still follow, I saw Rohit in a Firan today, the fact that he's still wearing that Firan is because our ancestors didn't convert. They are our heroes. Talk about them as heroes. This is the narrative that we need to change now. This also connects to what Sunita ji said when she was here. And it set me thinking, because it's right. Because a lot of people outside this community, when you go out, they tell you, well, you were cowards. 10 मर जाते, 20 मर जाते, 200 मर जाते, 3000 मर जाते, फिर क्या था? घर तो नहीं छोड़ता कोई. First of all, there are factual things that we can always say, that we were outnumbered. You don't fight Kalashnikovs and AK-47s with kitchen knives. 5% population that was unarmed could not fight terrorists who were armed to the hilt. All those are true. But there's another thing. They wanted to kill us. They wanted us to stay back so that they could kill us so that these gatherings don't happen. If we had all been killed there, do you think this would have happened? We would be here to tell our story? We wouldn't be here. That is what they wanted. That is the real genocide. We escaped a genocide, you guys. This is something that we need to be proud about. This is something we need to do. That's number one. Number two, I want to tell, we really need to look forward, and that means decoupling terrorism from Kashmiri Pandit situation. Now, a lot of you will say, well, this whole thing happened to us because of terrorism. How can we decouple this? We cannot. But here's the thing. Security situation in Kashmir will remain like this for a long time. I can assure you. Indian state is very powerful right now. Indian state is more powerful than it has ever been in last 75 years of independence. So I have no doubt that India is going to win this job. But that is the security part of it. The Kashmiri Pandit part of it is different. We are genocide survivors. We cannot be treated like riot victims. We cannot be treated like people who have suffered in sectarian violence. What that means is that India, the state, a lot of you will soon hear or things will come about that there should be investigation. I myself, as a writer, have asked for investigation In fact, I have written so many columns that we need a white paper to be published and presented in the parliament about how many people died, how many women were raped, how many houses were burned. Because we don't even have a proper list of all that. A proper investigation hasn't been done. But I want you to think a little bit, because this group can. More than the investigation now, what will happen when an investigation happens? All the people, maybe Anjali here or Sitaji here, they will be called and they will be told, because that is how the nature of law is. That is how law works. They will be told, okay, tell us who the perpetrators are. That is how the courts will decide, right? Because there are people who are there eyewitnesses. Is there anybody who can say? Are we as a community able to provide any eyewitnesses? Are we as a community able to provide any clues of who killed our people? We cannot, because in genocide you cannot. We were just so swept away. In the proper legal system, it is incumbent on the victim to present a proof of what has happened. The only time this legal system can be subverted is when we are designated as genocide survivors. That is the only time the burden of producing the proof will not be on us. So when you ask for investigation, like I used to, I still do, think about this. That where are we? Should the burden of investigation, should the burden of proof be on us now? Where are we going to find it? How am I going to find who came to my house that night and knocked and put a hit list outside my house? Where am I going to find that person? Should the burden of proof be on me now? No. Therefore, it's very important that we, Indian government, Indian state is already signatory to UN convention. But we don't have genocide laws in India. So it's very important that we press upon Indian state that please bring about genocide laws. And under genocide laws, that is when these cases can be opened. That is when we will get justice. So it's very important. This is another takeaway I want you to take away from this. Because this is a very complex thing. This is number 2. Number 3, the last point I want to make is, when you talk to your children about what happened to us, please do not begin the story in 1990. Our story did not begin in 1990. Our story began in 1328. Our story began 700 years ago. We have seen 7 exoduses, as you've been hearing, which means an exodus every 100 years, which means every 3rd generation of Kashmiri Pandits has seen an exodus. Where have you seen anything like that? Every 3rd generation has seen an exodus. Every 3rd generation has left the house. Every 3rd generation has seen the persecution. So when you talk to your children, please tell them that this began in 1328. Do not rely on the government data, which is not even clear that 200 people all died, 300 people, 300 people died. It is, this investigation hasn't really begun. But the state, Indian state, can only tell you from 1947 if they will. But we must tell, because our history, 700 years is not a big, long time. I understand people always be scared of people who think time is cyclical. We think time is cyclical. Always be scared of such people. So we will remember. We will remember what has happened to us from 1328. And I have done this research. There is a and this is beyond the scope of this thing, but there is a presentation of mine that I have given in UT Austin. Younger kids, if you are interested, you can look it up. I actually researched and I found that from 1328 to 1990, every exodus that has happened, because we have records. Understand that the Kashmiri Pandit community has always been good about records. We have through even if it is through riddles or even through poems or something, we do have records. Every exodus somehow is triggered similarly. Every time we were thrown out of the house, it it was similar situations that happened. So 1990 is not different from the first incidents that happened. So there is a thread. I have shown through my writing and through my presentations that there is a thread from 1328 to 1990. So when you talk to your children, tell them that this story, our people don't get to decide when our history begins. We get to decide when our history begins. Our persecution begins from 1328, and we tell that story. Nobody's going to stop us. We will. So, with that, I don't know how I can comfort a lot of you here. We are all in the same boat. We have all suffered. But as Sunanda said, there is a lot that we have achieved also as a community. I am proud of each one of you. I am proud of each one of us. Without any support, without any state support, without any kind of institutional support, we have come a long way. First 20-25 years, nobody even knew our story. Then internet came to our rescue. We started writing. But here's another story, another thing, and I'll just take 2 minutes, Abhijit. We always think, and I think, that my generation, we started blogging and internet and we started writing. That is not true. If you look at the generation before us, and our parents' generation, they suffered the most because they were the sandwich generation. They had to take care of their parents and they had to take care of us, our children. They had no time to grieve. Yet, Kashmiri Sabhas were formed overnight. Suddenly I find Kashmiri Sabhas in every big city where there is a Kashmiri presence. So they knew that they had to, even at the time of grief, they knew they had to come together. And we do have writings. Nobody was publishing them because that was the way you couldn't get published by any mainstream newspaper. But those people were writing. Look up where that writing is. I have found in my research so much stuff in Kashmir Samachar that used to get published in Lajpat Nagar by Kashmiri Samiti in Delhi. And I have seen all people, they are dead now. They don't even exist. But I have found so much stuff there. I have found so many personal anecdotes there. So even the generation before us did not stay quiet. They were not heard. There's a difference. You are not heard. Now, of course, since 2014, the regime change and everything in India, we are being heard. We have been told. Kashmir Files has done a fantastic job about taking our story. This much has happened now that nobody who has any connection with India can say that they don't know what the Kashmiri Pandit story is. So we have gone that far, but our story needs to continue. We haven't nearly achieved what we needed to achieve. We need to be declared as genocide survivors. Only then can law move ahead. Only then. Justice before reconciliation. That is what I always say. We deserve justice. We need justice. We will get justice. I only want to say that Prabhu Sri Ram waited 500 years before he could come to Ayodhya. I want to tell him, hey Prabhu, we are ordinary mortals. We cannot wait 500 years. Please send us home earlier than that, much earlier than that. हमसे मत पूछिए किधर जाएंगे, थक गए बहुत, अपने घर जाएंगे.